All right, so this is my baby. This is the hurdle hop system that I like to use. What we're gonna do here, these hurdles are each spaced 3 feet apart. Okay, this is a pretty standard spacing that I like to use. And each crossbar is 18 inches. So this is where I'll start people at. But what we're doing is we've got an OVR jump in each gap, set on that ground contact mode. So we're gonna be timing how quick each of these athletes gets on and off the ground. How this works, right now they're all untethered. You can do this tethered and use the app and read through and judge the scores that way. But I use this untethered means so that I can quickly, with a large group of kids, get through it and see scores. How we're going to do it is whatever their highest ground contact is, the largest number. So they're all going to be point something, but the largest number is going to be their score. So what we're trying to do is make it so that their worst score keeps getting faster and faster and faster. So eventually you've got, in this setup, 6 hurdles. That means 5 good ground contacts. That's hard. That's a lot of bounce. It's easy to get 1 good ground contact. You start to see a slight fall off with athletes when you get to 2. When you start getting 3 and beyond, your better athletes are the ones who excel. Your worst athletes are the ones who start to get exposed, but they're the ones who have the biggest room for improvement. So this becomes extremely helpful. Helps to, again, take an extensive idea, the idea of fast plyometrics, something that in the past has been next to impossible to quantify and give kids a score, help them build context for the movement. Now with OVR Jump, we can affordably set up a bunch of them and measure theoretically unlimited ground contacts. So we can keep building out and adding to the elasticity and creating that contextual, framework for the kid inside their own mind where they can start to feel what a ground contact is, because once they feel it, they can replicate it. So Titus is going to start us off. Again, we're looking to try and get under 0.15. That's the threshold that I like to use. You can use something higher like 0.2. You can use something lower like 0.12 if you've got really fast athletes. So for Titus, 0.192, 0.168, 0.319. So that's going to be his slowest, but he got as fast as 0.127. So you see something interesting right off the bat. Real quick, 0.157, so good contact, great contact. But that great contact came at the expense of probably not creating enough forward momentum. And so you see the cost of 1 great contact, it shows up on the next jump. So what we're looking for are sustainable jumps, sustainable ground contacts, a sustainable rhythm and strategy that's going to allow him to keep replicating those numbers all the way through. He gets back to 0.168, and that last hurdle, it slowed down just a little bit to 0.192. So all in all, you've got a couple really phenomenal contacts, one that stands out way above, but what are we looking to improve upon? That middle one. We're looking to sustainably get good bounces all the way through. So for right now, his score is 0.319, and I'm sure that'll improve by a bunch. DJ, let's see it. There we go. All right, so before I even look, you kind of saw he had a little bit of trouble finding his rhythm with this one. I could see that that one was slower, but I can't tell how slow. 0.175, 0.176, so pretty good right off the bat. 0.186, pretty good. 0.228, so that fourth one is what got him. He stumbles a little bit, has to correct, and that's going to lead to a longer time on the ground. 0.185, so overall, he's doing pretty well. 0.228, I'd expect him to be under 0.2, maybe as soon as the next attempt. Let's see it, Adam. All right. So Adam, even while it looked like he's trying to take a pretty measured approach, he's getting plenty of height above the hurdles. We're only using 18 inches. 18 inches is not going to be very challenging for a good athlete or for an older athlete. For a younger athlete, it might be pretty challenging. They might simply have a hard time getting through the whole thing at once. So the way that I'm gonna work it is, the first thing we're trying to do is simply get over. Sometimes I'm gonna have kids who have to kind of double jump and double bounce just to clear the hurdle, just to build up that mental confidence to clear it. But so Adam got 0.176, 0.174, 0.179, 0.158. So 0.179 is his fastest. So he's already, or is his slowest, excuse me. So he's already doing pretty well. And we're going to see on the second, maybe a third pass, if these guys don't start to get the hang of it and improve markedly. So we already said Titus had that one really awkward, jump where he had to reposition, refine himself. This time, a little more familiar. 0.157, pretty good. 0.179, pretty good. 176, pretty good. 179, pretty good. 172. So remarkably consistent. And he went from 0.319, I think, to 0.179. He almost cut his score entirely in half. And he's going to just look to build on that and improve upon it in the next one. Let's see it, DJ. There we go. All right. So 0.178, 0.179, 208. That would be the slowest one. I know what that one says, but that's because the carpet rippled. So 0.208, I think that's a little faster for DJ. Now what you're going to notice is these hurdles are very short, these distances in between. We're using this mat right now to quickly and easily line up 3-foot increments, right? At 3 feet, as you're the athlete passing through it, it almost feels like you're jumping straight vertical, right? So you're fighting directly back against gravity with very little of a forward vector, right? You're going straight back up against the opposing force of gravity, so it's actually going to make it harder to get a fast ground contact time. If we were to move these from 3 to 4 feet, or from 4 to 5, as we extend these out, what you'd actually see is that the athlete would have the opportunity to hit the ground and sort of roll forward to a greater degree, and they wouldn't be fighting gravity straight back up against itself. They would kind of be clipping the corner of it, and that vector would allow them to load up even faster and get out over the next hurdle. Very similar to if you think about when you're running, that first push off the ground, when your body's leaned way forward, you're striking almost straight down in line with your torso, and your ground contact times are longer. As you get further down the track and your stride starts to lengthen out, all of a sudden you're not striking straight down, you're kind of planting into the ground and vaulting over yourself. Your ground contacts, as a result, are able to shorten down. So shorter hurdles are higher hurdles are gonna be more like acceleration, slightly longer ground contact times. Lower hurdles are gonna be more like max velocity sprinting, where eventually even, if we were to keep lengthening these hurdles out, the gaps in between, if we took them out to 7, 8, maybe 9 or 10 feet even, eventually, what you'd start to see is they'd hit a point where those ground contacts would shrink, and then they'd hit a point where they couldn't cycle over, just like overstriding. And those ground contact times would start to lengthen out again. So you'd be seeing the braking forces showing up on the score through the ground contact time. So you can treat it just like stride length work. All right, but let's go through one more time, and let's see if we can't start getting, again, down around 0.150. If they could consistently hit each contact under 0.150 on these short spacings, which again are more like acceleration, we might respond by moving these hurdles up. So right now they're at 18 inches because we need them to be high enough that these guys actually have to put out significant force. But if we make them too high, it's going to come at the cost of them spending too much time on the ground, and it's not going to translate to the springiness and the elasticity and the speed that we're trying to build. Let's see. All right, so that time, Adam was slowest here at 0.183. Now, I don't know if you all can see it from back there or hear it. I don't know if it came through my microphone, but you can hear his heels hit a lot more on this one. he kind of plotted a little more, and he sank down. There was a lot more loading through the knees. So in order to speed these up, we want to see, just like with some of our other jumps, less loading through the knees, more of that stiffer foot and ankle, slapping the ground and springing up off. So let's see it, Titus. Whoop. That's all right. Trying to go a little too fast there, and he ends up clipping one. So we wouldn't have counted this, but he had a couple that were really fast ground contacts, and in between is when he clipped the hurdle. So he didn't quite get high enough, and it allowed him to get these sort of artificially fast scores. His other, legitimate scores would have put him at a .164. So again, getting real close to that 150 cutoff that we like to use, but still trying to figure out that rhythm. See it, DJ? Yeah. Oh. So .172, .188, 184, 183, 190. So those are all pretty consistent. 172 is the last one. You see his first one was the slowest that time. So it's real common to see the first one be the slowest. Usually what that means is that the athlete is starting too close to that first hurdle, so they have no momentum, and that first jump becomes a little too far vertical, so that when they land, they need more time to redirect themselves and get back off the ground. All right, so now we've lengthened those hurdle spacings out. So this is a longer hurdle. These are still, relative to these guys' level of athleticism, these are not that long, right? It might look very intimidating, though, if you have younger athletes. So you want to build up to this. But now we've got our hurdles spaced at every 5 feet, okay? I've had girls, high school girls, go up to 8 feet. But we won't take them there until they can hit it with fast enough ground contacts. So my best girl has gone 8 feet with .192 on her ground contact time between hurdles. These guys, this is only 5 feet, so we're going to see, can they cycle over and project forward and get those ground contacts down. Again, we want them to definitely be under .2. With these guys, I want to see more like, .13, .14. Ultimately, that's what we're trying to build to, maybe even to go lower. We might want to see, if you've got 100-meter sprinters, 200-meter sprinters, you've got some track athletes, you might want to see, can we start lining up multiple jumps, multiple ground contacts that are under .12? Basically, the rule of thumb, I'm looking to see, can we get something that's roughly 20 to 50% within that range of being only 20 to 50% slower than their regular ground contact time. So if you're a 100-meter sprinter in the 10s, your ground contact time might only be 1/10 of a second. If you're under the 10s, it might only be 8 1/100ths of a second, maybe even a little lower. So for those guys, they might be looking to see, can we get in that .1 to .11 range? For these guys, I want to see, can we get to eventually consistently under .15, maybe down to .12 eventually. So let's see it. Titus up first. All right. So instantly you see he's faster, .157, .159, and his score that we would keep track of is .179 there. All right, DJ. 165, 175, 191. So DJ's already a little bit better at this, but again, with his longer levers, this might be a little bit easier of a distance versus the other two who are a little shorter. One of the common things, again, that you're going to see is that if an athlete struggles with the first one of the easiest suggestions is simply move a little bit further back. You're going to try and make it that you are halfway, whatever this distance is, we want to be at least halfway back in front of that first hurdle so that these jumps essentially all are the same distance. Let's see it. 163, 169, 180. So again, they're all firmly under that 2.0 threshold right now. So this is plyometrics by any definition. But is it contextually fast enough for their level of athleticism? All right, 163, 169. That first one though, a little bit slow as he's trying to build that forward momentum, 194. When I start to get out to really long hurdles in this setting right now, because of how we're trying to shoot, we have a wall right here, but I'll allow my athletes to walk up a little so that that first jump, they have some forward momentum already in the system. Again, for the purposes of this shooting, it's a little bit hard. They're stacked up pretty close to that wall. All right, 163, 180, 190. Again, that's what you're seeing is they're just having a hard time establishing that forward momentum for the first contact. All right, 174, 175, 174. So Adam's starting to figure it out a little. You could see he kind of gave himself a little mini step in. He's still getting so high over the hurdles. So if he can work on his projection and clearing those hurdles by a little less, he can pick up that pace. Whew. All right. 150, 153. So his slowest right there is 153. Rippled the carpet a little there. Right, 164, 166, 182. So again, he's picking up speed on the back end, DJ is, but on the front end, it's just hard to get that forward momentum going with no walk up. We go one last time. 158, 157, 167. Again, the first one is the slowest. But even then, even with these guys, as their first one is the slowest, as you watch, they keep getting faster, even on the first one. And they're getting faster as they go through. But you saw a little bit with Adam there. Could he sustain that speed and those ground contacts out one or two more bounces? Maybe not. He was getting down into a low sort of compromised position. But that's longer hurdles. Again, if we went to 6 feet or 7 feet and we started to see that suddenly their ground contact times got slower on average, then what would be happening is that simply they were having to extend out and basically braking too much in the same way as if you were running, where you overstride and you have too much braking forces. So you can see that same concept at play here in these hurdle hops. But that's the hurdle hop system.